Look, be a lady tonight. Look, if you've ever been a lady to begin with. Look, be a lady tonight. And they're like, you've been hanging out with our son every summer since, so like, here's $400. That'd be so bad. Cove was the first one to approach. Stepping up to you and Lee with a smile on his face, he's gonna be like, that sucked! But I didn't have anything better to do, so you know. Welcome back, bitches, to our live beginnings and always. Now, Ari Master 870 seems to think that we are developing a little bit of a crush on Cove. What I will say is that he's definitely evolved more as a person as we're getting into second stage of life here. I'm not like super infatuated with him. I'm also not like get the fuck out of my room with him. So, you know. The sun warmed your skin from its place in the sky and closed your eyes, enjoying the mix of heat with the pleasant breeze that drifted past you. You and Lee had spread out on a blanket on top of the hills behind your house and had been relaxing for a while there now. Lee had come over earlier in the day, and while a range of activities had been discussed, from staying home to heading down to the beach, a picnic on the hill had been a choice that you had both settled on. A small spread was laid out in front of you. Some bottled water, soft drinks, as well as chips and sliced fruit. You sat up and reached for a snack, listening to Lee talk away about the musical she had just gotten to see a few days ago. It was unbelievable. There was singing, dancing, and crazy stunts, and it was all done live right in front of my face. Maybe one day we could go together. I gotta see more shows like that. You smiled at Lee's enthusiasm, knowing how much she enjoyed singing and performing. And she was good at it, too. You'd gotten a chance to hear her sing a couple times. You knew she put a lot of effort into it. You liked to sing, but you weren't very good. You liked to sing and had a talent of your own. You didn't like to sing, but you had been told you were good at it. You were good at singing, and it suited you fine. I'm gonna go midway here. Like, yeah, I do enjoy singing, but I don't think I'm the best at it. Decent. But not the best. Oh. It was nice that the two of you could share an interest. I wonder if maybe we can put on our own show. Think of how fun it'd be. This is literally something I would do in the summer, is like put on my own musical and my parents would clap and they'd be like, it's terrible, but good effort. We could perform for our parents and ask our friends and some other people to come watch it too. It would totally work. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go, girl. You had actually thought about doing something like that before, but never had a chance to. Lee clapped in excitement and bounced on the balls of her feet, beyond happy that you were on board with her idea. I'm gonna sing. Do you want it too? Or maybe do something else? I'll sing, I'll dance, I'll write a song. I'll do some kind of stunt that goes to the music. I'll pick outfits, I'll do makeup. I'll make a backdrop or some kind of stage. Well, I would probably do these three, but of these, I would probably sing before I would dance or write a song. So let's go, I'll sing too. Cool! We'll perform an incredible duet. Is there anything else that's coming to your head? No, that's all. Oh, look, I get to pick one more thing, so I will also write a song. Oh, I hope it's something dramatic. No, how about fun? Fun is better. What about both? Lee's face lit up at the idea, and she gave you a broad smile. That sounds perfect. Is there anything else that's coming to your head? Yeah, maybe like I'll dance and then that's all I'm gonna do. Okay, we can pick an upbeat song. That way it'll be easy for you to move. What's that supposed to mean? I think that'll make an amazing show. We've got things pretty covered. The two of you ran back to your house to grab the supplies you needed, dodging your mom's amused questions before heading back out to the blanket to get started. Lee laid down. Oh man, that's how old this is. MP3 player, bro. Lee laid down on the blanket, her MP3 player held above her while she swiped through the songs. She suggested a couple different tracks, which were fast-paced enough for you to put some moves together. Lee and you discussed the plans in detail, settling on a song first and then practicing out parts for the show. The afternoon passed quickly, the sun dropping lower and lower in the sky, and after having thoroughly worked out how the show was going to go, you decided to take a break. I know, we should invite Cove to watch us practice our show. He could tell if it's bad before we put on the real thing. That's smart. You guessed that would have been okay. I'm glad he didn't see it. You said nothing. I mean, that's pretty smart. We should ask him to watch us later. Okay. It's too bad Derek isn't in the neighborhood today. I like him. Yeah, he's a good person. I like him too. He's okay. He's kind of boring. I don't really like him. I'm gonna go with yeah, he's a good person. I knew you'd think so. So exactly how much do you like him? Or maybe there's someone else I haven't heard of yet. Lee wriggled her eyebrows at you suggestively, and you knew exactly what she was implying. Lee, there's nobody I like that right now. I can't answer that I have a crush, yeah. Now, I personally don't feel like I have a crush on Cove yet, but Ari Master says I do. I will not be bullied! Lee huffed in disappointment, pursing her lips together. Darn. But you promised to tell me if it changes, right? I'll do that for you. I'll tell, no, that'd be a secret, maybe. I want to go with maybe, because I can't guarantee that I'll be able to tell her, but I feel like I'd make an effort, so we'll go with I'll tell. It's a deal, then! Speaking of crushes, there's one boy I think is pretty cute. Ari Master was just saying that, like, she's got the hots for Derek, so let's see. If you say, stupid bowl cut kid, I'm gonna punch you in the face. You leaned back on your elbows and listened as Lee talked about her crush, all in great detail. It was nice to have her telling you a little gossip for once, rather than always trying to get it out of you. Game's not gonna tell me? Okay, cool, game. Just, no one wanted to know that anyway. Finally, you both decided to pack everything up and head back home for the evening. Lee talked excitedly about the show as you did, and you thought back on what you had already accomplished for it. You could definitely do with a little more practice, but what you had so far was a solid foundation for the performance. Upon walking in the front door, you were met by your moms and Elizabeth hovering around each other in the living room. Tension hung thick in the air as the three of them turned to you, and Lee frowned slightly. You had interrupted something. Exactly what? You weren't sure. Wow, who died? What's going on? Look between them. Hello? I'm gonna just be like, hi. How's it going? Noisy face over here. Hi, French fries. Hello, Lee. Welcome back. The room was quiet again, but no one quite knowing what to say. It felt incredibly awkward, but the silence didn't last long. You don't have to stop just because those two are here. There's no reason trying to keep it a secret. Elizabeth was mad, with her arms folded defensively over her chest, but your moms nodded in agreement with her. Elizabeth was asking about her parents. Oh, so is she adopted then? That's gonna be interesting. Her biological ones. Yeah, so, okay. Interesting. The world spun around you at the news. You couldn't understand. Why was this happening now? When you glanced at Lee, she shuffled her feet uncomfortably, as though she didn't know if she should be there or not anymore. You didn't know either. Your moms had always been open and honest about the fact that neither of them had given birth to you or your sister. The details had but the details had not been fully explained before. It made sense that Elizabeth didn't know a lot about her biological parents and wanted to know more. You just had never thought you'd accidentally stumble into it. Elizabeth looked at your parents expectantly. She wasn't going to let the unintentional interruption derail things. We don't want to keep that information from either of you, so it's your right to know your past, but we did want to wait until you asked us to hear yourselves. Well, it's happening now, so... Your mom shared a nervous glance, and Ma took in a quiet breath before speaking again. I adopted you from the Philippines when you were just a baby. Elizabeth dropped her arms, her eyebrows shooting upward in surprise. Wait, I wasn't born here? No, you weren't. You could clearly see that your sister was appalled by this information. You struggled even more with what to do or how to react. Am I gonna have to pass some test to even be a citizen? No, you were adopted into the country. We took care of things. You're already a citizen. There's nothing you have to worry about. I followed all the laws when it came to bringing a child into the U.S. Nothing can be held against you. Elizabeth sighed, placated with the information, but still far from happy. Who were my parents? Us people. Why did they put me up for adoption in the first place? Ma softly put her hands over Elizabeth's shoulder, trying to provide some support before she gave her the answer. Well, your parents were reported to have died. They didn't go into details on specifics how, but you were an orphan. I wish we had better news for you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth was torn between emotions. Her eyes filled with tears as she threw her hands in the air, settling on enraged. Great, so I can never meet them, even if I wanted to. Not that I could have anyway, since they lived in another part of the world when they were still alive. Elizabeth turned her back on you, and your mom stormed off, sprinting up the stairs into her room before anyone could stop her. I have to go talk to her. Ma immediately started to follow her, but Mom gently held her by the arm and shook her head. We should give her a little space to process it all. Your Ma's head hung low, but she stopped walking. With Elizabeth now gone, two of them seemed to remember you and Lee were still standing awkwardly off to the side. I'm sorry you had to see all that. It's not how I expected it would have happened when the time came. But since it's the topic of the day, French fires, is there anything that you'd like to ask? You deserve to know, after all. Lee patted your back and gave you a supportive look. I don't want to hear. No, I don't want to hear right now. You couldn't even answer. I'm gonna say probably not right now, but like I might want that in the future, so let's go with that. That's perfectly fine. You can always ask later if you change your mind. You smiled at them gratefully. It was nice to know they wanted to be open with you about the topic, even if it wasn't a talk you wanted to have right now. No one seemed to have any words after that. Went up to your room, stay here with your moms, wanted to get out of the house, wanted to go see Elizabeth. I don't think it's the best idea to go talk to her right now. She's super pissed. I also don't think it's the best idea to leave. What am I going to do if I hang out with them? I'm going to go up to my room. That's what I'm going to do. You slowly walked past your mom's and headed to the stairs, your mind racing from the confrontation. You told Lee you wanted to be alone. You wanted Lee to be with you. I'm going to say, like, probably stay here, Lee. Lee nodded without a word. Then safely behind your closed bedroom door, you let out a heavy breath before heading over to take a seat on your bed. Lee watched you from where she sat on your desk chair and gave a sad sigh of commiseration. You guessed she didn't really know what she could do to help, but was still trying to be supportive in any way that she could. So what do you want to do? Can I help? There's nothing you can do. I don't want to do anything. Thanks for being here. You said nothing. Do you think of me as family? Well, she obviously does. So I'm gonna go just thanks for being here. I'm happy too. She paced over and sat next to you on the bed, and you sat quietly together as time passed. A sudden knock drew your attention, causing you to sit up straight. When you realized it wasn't coming from the door, but the window, your head snapped towards it. Oh no! Lee's gonna bust me with Cove open here. That's not good. Lee did the same, looking a little uncertain if she should be worried by this development or not. You didn't even have to question who it was. There was only one person who would come tapping at your window, especially at night. Is it Santa? It's not. It's Cove, but we're gonna get there. You moved closer and looked out. Sure enough, seeing the familiar head of green hair on the other side of the glass. In only a moment, you had the window unlatched and open for him to enter. Cove pulled himself through the window with ease, standing straight in your room and dusting himself off. Lee tried not to let the display break the seriousness of the situation for her. Cove, what are you doing here? When he saw you, he seemed worried, and he ran a hand through his hair before speaking. I came to the front door. I just wanted to come by. But your moms told me they didn't know if you should be bothered right now, then I should come back later. I know they wouldn't have said it like that if you were working on some school stuff or whatever. So I got worried. Thought something bad happened. And then you climbed up the side of my house. He smiled, feeling unrepentant for disregarding your mom's ruling. Well, how else was I supposed to get in? Oh, Cove. You're so genuine. Couldn't quite believe he had really shown up like this. But then again, you shouldn't have been surprised. He was always there for you. Well, what happened? Cove pulled your desk chair next to your bed and sat down, long legs bent in front of him. You fidgeted a little with your bed covers, not quite knowing what to say, but he was willing to wait. There's not a lot going on right now. It's nothing. You couldn't speak to him. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here. Well, I'm gonna go thank you for coming, even though that's not the answer to his question at all. Cove's forehead furrowed in concern at your words. Can you explain everything to me? You nodded softly before taking in a heavy breath and launching into the story. Cove sat quietly and listened attentively, nodding every now and then, or taking a sharp inhale. Silence settled between you as Cove sat quietly for a moment, contemplating everything you had said. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, drifting through the night towards you. French fires.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry about what's happening. Elizabeth, parents, your family, everything. Stopped suddenly, and you got the impression he was struggling to find more to say. No, Elizabeth and I have never been super close, but don't think she'd want her family to break up or drift apart, even if she complains about it sometimes. He smiled at you, and you could tell he was trying to be comforting. And your moms definitely don't. Doesn't matter if you're not blood related, you're family. I can see that. I hope that you can too. Thank you, Cove. You cried sadly. You cried in relief. You still felt unsure. I would probably be crying in relief. I'm just saying, I cry a lot. Not as much as Cove, but I do cry fairly frequently. His words made a lot of sense. You knew your sister well, and you knew your family would always be important. Even as the tears slowly rolled down your face, thought comforted you. Your cousin tried not to interrupt your explanation or Cove's response to it. When the opportunity arose, she made it clear she shared the same sentiment. A knock at the door made you look up. Though before you could even move, it swung open and Elizabeth stood in your doorframe. Oh, that's not good, bro. She walked closer and you didn't quite know what to do or what she was planning on saying. Would you mind going? I just want to talk to French Fires. You can come back. It's not going to be like forever or anything. Cove seemed equal parts concerned and skeptical. Leaving now wasn't a concept that thrilled him. Lee wasn't exactly jumping to go, so she checked with you quietly. What do you think? You can't ask that. You nodded your head in agreement. I want to talk to you too. I want to talk to her, but I don't want my friends to leave. I gotta go with that. We're gonna go with that. Then we're on the same page. She made a little move-along gesture with her hands, and it was settled. You waited until the two of you were alone before fixing her with an inquisitive look. Elizabeth folded her arms, looking you over. Did moms tell you about your parents too? I didn't want to know. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I didn't want to know. Elizabeth nodded in understanding, her face solemn. Why did you want to talk to me? Elizabeth raised an eyebrow at the question, as though the answer should be obvious. I was worried about you. I was the one who brought it up, but I made you deal with whatever was left when I was gone. She sighed, glancing upward for a moment before settling on you once more. I wanted to ask what happened without everyone breathing down our necks. It was pretty crappy of you to just bail. It was pretty crappy. I'm amazed you noticed that was unkind. Well, that too, but that's mean. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm not mad at you. We're quietly surprised by her admission. I'm gonna say, like, pretty crappy, because even if you're angry, that it is pretty crappy. She rolled her eyes, but you didn't miss the small smile that threatened to peek out. I'm not very nice. Well, ain't that the truth? I'm okay, Elizabeth. It didn't upset me. How are you allowed to be that mature? The lightning spirits in her were quickly gone, and she slipped back into a scowl. You have to be born in the United States to become president. What? You had never heard of that dream of hers before. She noticed your bafflement and continued. I get I was never gonna be president, but it just feels weird. Having stuff taken away and not even getting a chance at it. I don't like having to know that when I was born, I was gonna have a completely different life. So different, I can't even think about what it looked like in my head. I could have spoken another language, lived away from everything I've ever seen here, had someone else as my sibling. Then my parents died and I was adopted, and the life I got became a totally new thing forever. I can't go back to what it was even if I wanted to. A heaviness settled between you and the person who became your sister. I feel like that too. You knew exactly how she felt. I don't really understand. I don't really understand. I can't see that other stuff as being my life. The one I have is what my life is, and everything else is only what didn't happen. Elizabeth watched you seriously. She was still trying to make sense of this to you and herself. I didn't know why today was the day. Nothing came up to make me ask the question. It was just something I had in my head for a while. It was just me and Mom's in the living room. I just kind of said it. Finally. There you go. She shifted from one foot to another, relaxing her stance just a bit. She also spoke more gently. Learning about them and what happened doesn't change how I feel about our family, French Fires. She smirked, fixing you with sharp eyes. I'd already figured a long time ago that moms weren't our biological parents. That wasn't news. Technically, one of them could have been related to you. Kept listening. It doesn't it really doesn't change anything. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep listening. Like, I want to know what she has to say here. Nothing about the family I was first born in would have made me decide that it wasn't my family anymore. If you had hoped you'd be free of my big sisterly status, don't think you're so lucky. She bumped her shoulder against yours playfully, her lips tilted at the corners. Oh, see that I got the shoulder bump idea from her.
You'll always be my little sister.
Aww. Cute. Smiled softly, groaned at the prospect. I'm gonna bump her back. Oh, should I bump her back or should I hug her? I'm gonna hug her. We hug in this family. It took a few seconds. She gave you a quick squeeze in return. You'll always be my family too. I think I'm really lucky. You took in the moment. You'll always be my family too. That's something I would say. Chuckling, she seemed pleased with how the conversation had gone in the end. We should probably head downstairs and make sure moms are okay. It's been a long day for everybody. Gave her a nod. Down we go. You met up with Lee and Cove just outside the room and made the short trip to the lower floor of your home together. The familiarity of it all felt nice. When you stepped into the living room, you found your moms quietly sitting together at the kitchen table. They both got to their feet when they noticed the arrival, and Ma gave you a careful smile. It seemed that... I was just wondering that. I was like, well, they're not gonna be like, the fuck is Cove doing here? Well, that motherfucker to go home. It seemed they were too concerned to really register that Cove was inexplicably here now, despite being turned away at the door earlier. So glad to see you. Hi, sorry for walking away. Everything is alright. You said nothing. I'm gonna say everything is alright. That's wonderful, sweetheart. Really wonderful. Ma then came over and wrapped her arms around you and Elizabeth, giving you a tight hug. It didn't take long for Mom to join in, putting her arms around the both of you. We really couldn't have asked for better, kiddos. We love you. More than we could ever say. Moms! You smiled at their comfort. We're glad your moms were alright. You're smushing me! Oh, that's cute. I love you too. It was a nice moment, and you enjoyed it for as long as you could. They both pulled back eventually and grinned at the two of you, and you knew that you all had each other, and you always would. Well now, since we're all here, how about we do something together as a family? That sounds like an excellent idea. We should have some fun before the night's over. I love the sound of that. Yeah, okay. Why not? You hid the smile that threatened to tilt your lips, knowing that Elizabeth must have been in a good mood if she hadn't even teased Cove for being part of it. And no matter what she could have said about it, you wanted him to be here. The two of you had practically grown up together over the past 5 years. Who's got a suggestion? It should be something we can do here in the house with everyone in the same room. You suddenly remembered the show you and Lee had been working on earlier. Maybe we can do our show. You were bummed you never got to do it. You weren't so keen. Yeah, let's do it. Singing brings the family together. A show? This is the first time we're hearing of this. I'm intrigued. It would be amazing if you put it on for us to watch. Oh yeah? I need to see what you cooked up. That'd be cool. He smiled at Lee, who returned the gesture while bouncing on her heels in excitement. Take some seats. We'll get everything together. Your moms collected the chairs from around the dining table and set them in a row in the living room, where there was enough space for the show. While they did that, you and Lee quickly gathered the supplies you needed and rehashed the plan one last time. You went through the song you had written. You also took a moment to cycle through the dance moves you had planned. When the two of you returned to the living room, everyone was sitting and chatting amongst themselves while they waited. The group quieted down when you and Lee stood in front of them on your makeshift stage. Lee was buzzing quietly with excitement beside you. Felt nervous, you were pumped for the show, you were unsure how to feel. I'm motherfucking pumped! The time you and Lee had put into practicing was worth it. You were ready to go. Okay, so welcome to our show. We only came up with it today, but we promise it'll be good. Thank you for being here tonight. No refunds. You're gonna be really impressed. I'm gonna say no refunds, but I'm pumped. Laughter rippled through the mini audience. I'm a comedic genius. Then you nodded at Lee that you were ready to begin. Lee took in a deep breath, waiting the few beats it took to get into the song, and started singing. Your part of the song joined in just a few moments later, and you smiled at each other as you sang together. The dance moves you had practiced went perfectly with the tempo of the song. It made you proud to have the lyrics you had written sung like this. When the performance was over, Lee took your hand in hers, and the two of you bowed deeply together. Everyone gave a round of applause and cheered for an encore. When you straightened yourself up, you were happy to see that even Elizabeth was clapping for you. Oh, bravo! Bravo!
Good job.
You're so talented! Your family rose from their seats and came over to congratulate you more directly. You were beaming from ear to ear. Cove was the first one to approach. Stepping up to you and Lee with a smile on his face, he's gonna be like, "That sucked! But I didn't have anything better to do, so, you know."
It's nice.
No, it's nice. Thank you! You're a really great dancer, French Fires. It was cool. Oh yeah, Cove? My great dancer? Thanks, I was pretty good, huh? I would probably blush, so that's where we're gonna go. Cove chuckled and shook his head. Hey, were you the one that wrote that song? Yeah, it was me. Cove smiled, content over his guess being correct. It was good. You couldn't help but feel pleased that he could recognize your talent so easily. Your parents gushed about how great everything was and thanked you for sharing it with them. Elizabeth was complimentary in her own way, although she did describe the show as cute, which you knew she meant was kind of kitty. You laughed it off, however. You were just happy that everyone had a nice time. In that moment, you could have been more pleased to be part of the family you had. Sunlight shone through the windows as you sat in your living room, your home phone pressed to your ear. Cove was on the other end. It'd been shaping up to be an ordinary day like any other, till Cove had called unexpectedly. He sounded unusually nervous getting to you. You listened silently as he kept talking, words stilted. So, I was just wondering, do you want to come over to my house for dinner tonight? The question came out strangely, almost like he'd rehearsed it a few times beforehand. Your eyes widened a little. You hadn't expected this to be the reason behind the call. Yeah, I'll go, I can't. You kept listening, like, yeah, sure, I'll come hang out over there. It was, huh? Oh. It seemed that Cove still had more to say. You just interrupted him. Oops. I do that, though. Cool. Well... He stumbled for a bit, trying to gather his thoughts again. My mom and dad, they really want you to be there, if your parents don't have a problem with it. They asked me to ask you. You took a moment to think. Dinner would be quiet and uneventful today. If you really wanted to, you could go to Cove's instead. Cove spoke up again, breaking your thought train. His voice was softer than before. Also, I want you to be there too. Can you... well, come over, I mean. He's so awkward. It's adorable. Yeah, I can come. I'll have to ask my moms. No, I can't. Why am I the only one invited? Did you mean to invite my whole family? Hell no! I should ask my parents, though. I should probably do that. Okay, tell me when you can. He sounded noticeably relieved by your response. Was you coming over for a dinner today that serious? He spoke to you for a little while longer to explain what time to come over and other details, and then hung up. That was that. For now, anyways. You called Ma right afterwards, and she picked up on the third ring. It wasn't a long conversation. When you asked to go to the Holden house for dinner, she was more than happy to get permission for it. No problems there. Ma wasn't one to complain about you spending time with Cove. Cove got a quick call from you afterwards, so he knew for sure that you would be attending dinner. Then you said your goodbyes and went on with your afternoon. Soon enough, the sun dipped out of the sky and evening came. It was time for you to head to Cove's house. After letting Elizabeth know that you were leaving, she didn't look away from the TV, just grunted. You made the small journey across the street. You knocked a couple times on the heavy door to their condo. As you waited for an answer, you found yourself contemplating being a guest while both of Cove's parents were there. It was exciting, you were apprehensive, the idea made you curious. You didn't think it would be interesting. You couldn't say you were thrilled. I'm curious. That's where I'm gonna go. You wondered why they decided to invite you out of the blue. Maybe you'd find out later tonight. You didn't get much time with your thoughts, though. The door opened soon enough. Cove's mom, Kira, stood in the frame, smiling warmly at you. Hiya, French fires. Welcome. Please come in. She opened the door wider and moved to make room. You stepped inside, allowing her to shut it behind you. Thanks so much for coming over. I knew it was kind of last second. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Just make yourself at home. It's not my home, but I've been given permission to say that. Hey, French fires. Welcome to our humble abode, brah. You jerked your head towards the sound of Mr. Holden's voice. He waved at you briefly for the kitchen, with his back turned and a large spoon in his hand. Hope you're hungry, 'cause I'm whipping up a lot of tasty stuff, brah. True to his word, you heard something sizzling on the stove. You closed your eyes and inhaled. It smelled spicy and savory. With Mr. Holden busy and Cove nowhere to be seen, it was just you and Kira. He gave you a wry smile. He sure is. Well, I've been barred from cooking the entire time I'm staying here. Can you believe that? She nudged you with an elbow. Mr. Holden scoffed good-naturedly, then spoke from over his shoulder. You're on vacation, Kira. You need to accept that already, brah. She yelled back, amusement obvious on her face and in her tone. People still cook when they're on vacation. Everyone's gotta eat. It's not like I'm some celebrity who can go out for every meal or hire a private chef. Well, in this house, you're a VIP, brah. Oh, Mr. Holden. Kira smiled and shook her head quietly. Then she turned to face you once more. Sorry about that, French fires. Here I was, trying to strike up a conversation with you, and Cliff just had to butt in. I didn't butt in, brah. She eyed him, chuckling in disbelief. He wasn't exactly disproving her point when he said that. Kira leaned over to whisper to you. It's okay, he likes to be included. But since Clifford insisted on cooking all by himself, he'll have to wait. The two of us can chat. Her next question continued to be said in a hushed tone, just to be safe. How are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm good. Things are okay. I'm not really sure you didn't reply. I'm either good or I'm okay. I can't really complain, so I'm good, I guess? That's what I like to hear. She opened her mouth to say something more, but some lightly pounding footsteps caught your attention. You checked to see Cove emerging from the hall a few moments later. He might have heard all the commotion and left his room to see what was going on. He quickly took stock of the situation. "French fries, hey, thanks for being here." There was nothing unusual about the words in his greeting, but you could tell something was wrong from the way he looked, like he wanted to be anywhere but there. "Hi, Cove. Doing okay?" "Yeah, fine." He didn't sound convincing at all. You narrowed your eyes suspiciously, but you didn't call him out on it. If you could talk to him alone tonight, maybe you'd ask him what was going on. It was when you glanced away from Cove that you spotted his parents watching the two of you interact. Cove noticed the stares too, meeting them with narrowed eyes. "Are we having dinner now?" "Not yet, brah. Still cooking." "Alright, go back to my room." Bye! As he turned to leave, he bent his head to the side to face you. "You coming?" The question was quiet, but you heard it clearly. You smiled, pleased that he asked, and nodded the affirmative. Cove turned fully and made his way down the hall. "Go ahead. No, you want to comment? No, you want to comment on me going to Cove's room?" Have fun, you two. "We'll call you when the food's ready to go, brah." With that, you followed after Cove. The two of you made your way down the hall. This was the first time I was invited to see his room. I had visited his room before, but rarely. Going over to Cove's room was a standard occurrence for you nowadays. I'm gonna say first time I was invited because I have no prior knowledge of me being in this room. Cove got to the door first, opening it and stepping inside. You joined him. There was a mat on the floor in front of the door. As you stepped over the threshold into his room, you felt the crunch of sand beneath your feet. You glanced down. Sand was clustered around the entrance. You even spotted smaller amounts of it dusting the rest of the room's floor. Though you hadn't anticipated it, you were surprised at the sight. Of course, Beach Boy Cove Holden get his room all sandy. So this is my room." Cove was a bit shy as he said so, fidgeting with the hem of his shirt, using one hand to vaguely gesture to the space. There's stuff you can sit on if you want." You looked over at the desk chair as an option. When you turned back, Cove was already sitting on the edge of his bed. "You trying to make a beach with all this sand? It's nice. Thanks for letting me come over. You weren't sure what to do." I'm gonna tease him. That's how I flirt, is like general teasing. I'm flirting with Cove. Oh no!
Not really.
It'd be cool if I could, though. You couldn't help recalling a long time ago, Cove explaining his childhood dream home would be something located right on the shore of a beach. Maybe that idle thought still had an appeal for him. It made you smile to think about it. You didn't sit anywhere, you sat down on the chair, you sat next to Cove. Things are getting pretty serious. Cove smiled when you made yourself at home beside him. You grinned back. The silence growing, your gaze began to drift. You stared at the bright fish swimming in the tank. There were a bunch of them, floating to and fro in the open space. They stood out starkly against the green aquarium plants. "How long have you had those fish?"
I guess.
"My dad bought them for me not very long after I moved here. I guess it's been years now." "Wow, that's a long time." Peered carefully into the tank. The fish looked to be doing well. He must take good care of them. Most of them were small, but there was one especially big one. What are their names? Well, I don't name them. Not really. You lifted an eyebrow at that. He continued the explanation sheepishly. Mostly, I just call them things based on what they look like. Squirt for a small one, tangerine for the really orange one, you know, that sort of thing. I've had a lot of fish and I'm not good at coming up with names. You found that funny, you found that surprising, you found that relatable. I'm gonna say funny. Who knew that was a weakness of his? It was an entertaining revelation. Oh, a couple of them have other types of names. He pointed to a small orangish redfish. It was minding its own business away from the others. My dad named her Dreamcatcher, and the other one's Mark. Mom came up with that one. Cove smiled to himself, his eyes reflecting the glow from the tank. You let other people name your fish? He turned to you, tilting his head to the side. There was a considering look on his face. Do you want to name one? Hell yeah, I do! Can I name it Merryweather after the dolphin? Prince of Dolphins? Hell yeah, I do. There's just no hell in front of it, but that's literally what I just said. His smile grew a little at your enthusiasm. Cool. There's a few who don't have names right now, the newer ones. You can pick which one you want to name. He pointed each of the recent acquisitions out to you. The first was the smallest fish in the tank, completely orange and zipped all over the place, running laps around the others. The second one was slightly bigger and red. Its tail was dotted with black spots which almost resembled freckles. Oh, can we name that one Shiloh? I want to name that one Shiloh! The last fish was the biggest one. Its multicolored scales rippled under the bright light of the tank as it slowly made its way across the vast expanse. You went with the medium fish! I want to name it Shiloh. Cove only nodded at your answer, waiting on you to decide a suitable name. You watched the fish you chose closely. As you did, a name eventually came out. Oh, they're not... Oh, type your own answer. Fuck you, Shiloh. Type a name. It's not Bubble. It is Shiloh. And it will forever be like 8 exclamation points. Oh, I can't do exclamation points? Oh well, whatever. We'll just go with that. Alright. It's Shiloh. With that, his attention moved from you to the tank. He peered fondly at it and its inhabitants. You smiled proudly at Shiloh as it swam through the tendrils of the plants, disappearing and then reappearing soon after. You know, I'm not allowed to have pets in my house, not even fish. Oh, that sucks. The corners of Cove's lips turned down at that. That doesn't sound fair. It's not like fish would make a mess of your house or anything. Just gotta take care of their tank and feed them and they'll be okay. Right, my moms can be strict over the weirdest things. I don't mind much, I get it. I would say this first thing because my house is full of pets. They trust Elizabeth and me to go around the neighborhood alone, but they won't let us have a pet? It doesn't make sense. Maybe when you're older they'll let you. I don't know. They seem pretty against it. Your current conversation brought to mind a memory from years ago. You launched into it without any warning, earning you a brief, confused look from Cove. One time Elizabeth, came back from playing at the beach and just shut herself in her room. She only came down for food, and then she ran back upstairs straight after. It's kind of weird. My moms didn't think much of it at first, though. But then that night, Ma went into her room to say goodnight and started screaming. So we ran over to see what happened, and Lizzie had this huge lizard in her arms. Cove's eyebrows rose at that. He leaned forward in interest. Lizard? Where did it come from? Elizabeth said she saw it half buried in the sand and didn't know what it was. She pulled it out and got the answer, so she brought it home. She hid the lizard in her room for most of the day because she wanted to keep it. Mom and Ma were not happy. They worried about putting it out during the night. She was going to let it go in the morning. She was really upset. She did bring it back to the beach eventually, but she wouldn't talk to anyone for days. When she did get over it, it was almost like it never happened. You laughed, thinking back to that time. Elizabeth had always been stubborn, but when she was younger, she forgot grudges quickly. Now it wasn't so easy. Cove had been quiet for most of the story, apart from the reveal of the lizard. He had a thoughtful look on his face. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to have a sibling. You gave serious thought to his statement before you told him. It's fun, there are ups and downs, you're lucky to be an only child. It's a nice idea in general, but my sister is Elizabeth. I would literally say this about my current sibling, who shall remain nameless. So we're gonna pick that one. Maybe if I had someone else as my sibling, I'd like having one more. Truth. Ah, truths. Cove pursed his lips at the words, considering them quietly for a while. That's interesting. I think your family is cool. He didn't have much else to say. Though well on topic of your family, you considered your relationship with your moms too. They were the best. You got along with your moms. You thought your moms were okay. Found your moms to be difficult to deal with. I'm gonna say, like, I get along with them pretty well. You had disagreements with them, but at the end of the day, you loved them and they loved you. That's really what mattered. Well, say what you want about them, but at least your moms never tried to pay someone to be your friend. Oh! Damn! Harsh truths, harsh truths. The thought prompted you to look over at Cove. He probably still didn't know what happened. You doubted that Mr. Holden mentioned it, and you never had. You wondered if you should tell him. It was a long time ago. But you were keeping a secret from Cove. Don't tell him. That is really bad. Don't tell him secrets were meant to be kept. Yeah, you didn't tell him, you just wanted to have a talk. We're just gonna go with that. Maybe you would in the future, but you knew you weren't right now. Time passed, but you didn't really notice. The two of you were busy making plans for the rest of the summer and chatting about your respective days. Eventually, you heard a muffled holler from a distant part of the house. You and Cove raised your heads in unison. It's time for dinner. Touched the firmly shut door he had been locked behind for most of the night, but he didn't make a move to get up from the bed. You couldn't see his face, so you didn't know what expression he was wearing. I'm glad you came. Cove peeked back at you from the side. Been awkward. I get that. It's been hard on you, huh? You felt sympathetic towards him. You didn't know what he was going through, but you cared about him. Cove said nothing else and remained sat where he was. Now would be a good time to ask. Now would be as good a time as any to ask him why his parents so suddenly wanted you to come over. There a reason? Yeah, like, is there a reason? I'm honestly curious. It hasn't been awkward for just me. Sometimes it gets like this when no one else is around, but now you're here. Huh? Hadn't considered that, but it sort of made sense in a way. There was another shout from outside, too muffled to actually know the words, but you could imagine what they were. Let's go. Phil finally got up, lumbering away with his shoulders sagged. You followed after him. Together, the two of you made your way back to the living room. As you expected, Cove's parents were politely waiting for you at the kitchen table, besides the windows overlooking the back of the house. Food had been prepared and set. Mr. Holden beamed as you and Cove took your places. Hope everyone's hungry, brah. Cooked up a feast. I know I am. Yeah. Cove's mumbled response wasn't nearly as upbeat as theirs. His parents didn't notice, or they pretended not to. Mr. Holden instead looked at you, grinning. Let's all just take a moment to thank our special guest for being with us here tonight. So glad you were able to make it French fires, brah. And on such short notice, too. I'm gonna thank them for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. Thank you both for inviting me. Well, that's it. Everyone please dig in. Help yourselves to the food, brah. Upon his encouragement, you looked over the meal spread out in front of you. There was a large garden salad in the center, surrounded by a variety of Mexican dishes. There were a lot of sides and optional sauces to add. You were very happy with the options. You could work with this. You weren't exactly a fan. It kind of surprised you. Yeah, like Mexican food is good. You loved Mexican food, and there were so many dishes to choose from. You were practically drooling. Utensils and plates scraped and clinked together as the group began filling in their places. Cliff, could you please pass the salsa verde? Course, brah. Let me just say, you really outdid yourself tonight. I'm so jealous. Jealous? What, brah? Your cooking's nothing to sneeze at, Kira. Cove's parents made small talk, filling the silence with what seemed to be barely an effort. You chimed in as well. Did it take you a long time to cook all of this, Mr. Holden? Oh, not at all. Sure, this is more than I usually make for me and Cove, but I enjoy every second of it, brah. Might have gone faster if you had some help, though. Cove's mom grumbled, but it was lighthearted. Mr. Holden chuckled and shook his head. Not this again, brah. I make the rules here, and I say guests don't cook. Even when they're staying for literal weeks? Even then, brah. Brief silences interspersed with small talk. You piled some food on your plate, waiting for your turn if someone was serving themselves a dish that you had your eye on. Once the food had been divided and things settled down, Cove's parents started talking again. Now then, brah. You sat up in your seat when you noticed they were both looking at you. Yeah, like, what do they want? Part of me wants to say that they're getting back together. That's where my thought is going. How's everything been over at your house? Are your moms well? You've been busy over summer? Maybe you're just trying to take it easy during break, brah. Felt overwhelmed by the sudden rush of questions. Yeah, that's like 8 literal questions, Mr. Holden. I was happy, I was surprised, but I didn't mind the interest. I'm gonna go there. I was surprised, but I don't mind the interest. You hadn't expected so many questions all at once. Still, what else was there to talk about, apart from how summer was going? Answered how things were at your house, answered how your moms were doing. Mentioned things you'd done, so I'm gonna start there. Not sure where to start, there's so much that happened. Should know what I've been up to since so much was included your family. I really haven't done much. I'm not sure where to start. Mr. Holden's brows raised when you answered with that. Sure are keeping yourself busy, brah. I could learn a thing or two from you. And I'm gonna talk about my parents. Moms are great. Mom took us out for dessert a couple weeks ago, since her project went really well. Is that so? I'll have to congratulate her when I see her. Answered how things were at my house. It's been good, it's been good. Is what you said, but you didn't mean it. It's alright. It's not that great. I'd rather not talk about it. Yeah, like, it's been good. There's some hiccups, but all in all. Oh, that's wonderful. And that was that for your question answering. Kira nodded along. You could tell she was actually listening to the words you were saying. She was trying to include you, not humor you. Did you know, Cliff, French Fires is really into media? Mr. Holden's face lit up and he stopped eating so he could lean forward, his arms braced against the table. Oh, that's right. Very cool, brah. It's just a hobby. I'm pretty serious about it. Oh, it's not a big thing. I would probably just be like, either it's a hobby or it's a big thing, so let's go hobby. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good to do things just for fun, brah. Everyone needs a hobby. I've been thinking about picking up wood carving myself. You couldn't tell how serious he was being about that declaration. Thanks. Cove's parents were definitely the encouraging type. You could already tell that much. There was a lull in conversation as everyone focused their attention on their respective plates. You noted not for the first time that Cove's parents were the ones guiding the conversation. You wondered if you should break the silence this time. Yeah, sure. What do you guys want to talk about? You want to talk about, like, sweet tattoos? Because you both have one. Oh, let's talk about your sweet tats, brah! Also like other things. Would you like to tell us more? Yeah, brah. They looked genuinely eager for you to keep talking, so you did. The rest of dinner continued just like that, with light conversation as you ate your meals. Eventually, all the dishes on the kitchen table were pretty much gone. Kira set down her fork and rested her arms at her sides, letting loose a satisfied sigh. Her plate was completely empty. That was delish. Thank you for your culinary creations, Cliff. Mr. Holden was like a flower soaking up the rays of the sun. He beamed, flattered by the praise. You ate way too much, you ate until you were satisfied, you tried not to eat too much even though it was good. I'm gonna go middle rung there. It had taken you some time to finish it all, but eventually you cleared your plate. Cove successfully kept his presence to a minimum for the full meal. He was slumped over, even now, toying with his silverware. His parents practically only talked to you. Most attempts to entice him to join the conversation had failed. Then again, Cove didn't tend to talk a lot unless he happened to be in the mood for it, so you weren't surprised things ended up this way. You didn't get much time to contemplate Cove's situation because your attention was taken by Mr. Holden pointedly clearing his voice. Not to sound like a broken record, but thanks for coming, brah. Glad we finally got the chance to have you over for a real dinner. Did you hear that right? This is the first time French Fires had ever been to dinner? Why in the world haven't you invited her over sooner? Well, Cove is always going over to French Fires' house until now, brah. I mean, how was I supposed to reject the generous offers of the noisy-faced family to host my kid, brah? Kira shook her head, but the amused smile she was sporting told you that she wasn't actually mad. This guy, honestly. Three of you looked at Cove in unison, his small sound being more than enough to get the focus on him after his silence. But now he stopped fiddling with his fork. Would it be alright for French Fires to stay over? Like, for the night? He shot you a shy glance then, smiling a little. If you're cool with that. His parents looked genuinely concerned. Mr. Holden's shoulders stiffened. He sat up straighter, eyes darting back and forth between you and Cove. His mouth opened, but not a peep came out. You had never seen Cove's dad say no to him before, but this was different than the usual request. It wasn't so simple, and Mr. Holden was lost. Then Cove's mom reached out and took a hold of his shirt collar. She pulled him closer. She glanced at you before leaning in and bringing a hand up in front of their faces. The two adults whispered seriously to each other. Cove's eyes opened wider. He leaned forward as if that would help him overhear his parents' conversation. Mr. Holden kept gesturing with his hands, while Kira made sure she didn't get too far away with all of his movements. Every now and then, both of them would watch you and Cove out of the corner of their eyes. Yes, just make sure we're not, like, making out over here! They didn't seem like they were fighting to you. They looked more like some kind of tiny sports team having a private huddle. After a bit, they broke their powwow. They moved back to sit properly in their chairs. You snuck a look at Cove. He stared at them expectantly. You were eager to hear their verdict, too. Well, Kira and I think it should be fine, but, brah. I literally just did this! And it said that he raised a finger dramatically. Ah! He lifted a finger dramatically, his brows raising as he met Cove's gaze and then your own. We'll have to talk with French Fires' parents to make sure they'll be comfortable with it, brah. If they are, we can arrange a sleepover to happen on a different night when everyone is more prepared. French Fires' folks don't like the idea. There's nothing we can do, brah. He finished the mini speech with a wide shrug in his full arms. He also checked out Kira from the corner of his eye and gave her a crooked smile. She nodded approvingly and grinned back. You thought you saw her give him a thumbs up, but her hand was partially blocked by the table, so pleased with themselves over the answer. But they just passed the actual decision on whether it was alright or not to someone else, namely, your parents. But this was a sports game. They would have punted the ball away. Cove hung his head deflated. He had been hoping you could stay over today, not some hypothetical time in the future. Gave him words of encouragement, you patted him on the back. You offered to sneak the phone into your room tonight. I'm not gonna say, hey, you can sneak into my room again in front of your parents! In the back. There, Cove, there. You didn't say a word. Instead, you reached over and gave him an understanding pat on the back. Though he still appeared upset, the corners of his lips lifted in a little appreciation of your comfort. With that, dinner finally came to an end. Mr. Holden stood up from the table and began collecting empty plates. Cove was asked to help out, which he did with little fuss. Kira tried to lend a hand as well. However, Mr. Holden didn't let her. It seemed she was barred from cleaning as well as cooking. You weren't allowed to chip in either, since you were there as the declared guest of honor. Although the meal was over, the night wasn't. It looked like you weren't going home yet just after all. You were asked to wait on the couch. While Cove and his dad were cleaning up the mess, Kira disappeared down the hall after shouting you a wink. It was a very loud wink. It's a bit strange, sitting by yourself while everyone else had something to do. Luckily, you weren't alone for too long. After a couple of minutes, Cove's mom returned with a deck of cards in hand. She strode into the room confidently while shuffling. So, who's up for a few rounds? Cove and his dad looked over their shoulders at the question. They were mutually intrigued by the cards in her hand. She beamed at their expressions and stepped further into the living room. Ignoring the couches, she sat cross-legged on the floor by the coffee table. She turned to you and gestured at the space beside her, smiling invitingly. You accepted and followed her lead. The living room carpet was soft. Through the hardwood floor underneath could definitely still be felt. Kira did an overhead shuffle as she waited for others to finish their tasks. A smile had yet to leave her lips. This is going to be good. You were excited, you were nervous, you were bored, you were kind of annoyed. You enjoyed her enthusiasm. You be you, girl. His mom was funny, upbeat, and easygoing. You leaned closer to watch her expertly shuffle the cards. It didn't take much longer for Cove and his dad to wrap things enough to call it good. Cove's dad appeared first, followed closely behind by Cove. Mr. Holden rubbed his hands together in anticipation. Alright, ready, brah. As he took a seat across from you on the floor, you noticed that Cove hadn't joined him. He went straight down the hall instead without even a word. You stared on confused as he disappeared through his bedroom door. Cove's parents didn't look concerned at the stunt. Kira nonchalantly split the deck of cards into two and rifled the halves together while offering an explanation of sorts. Cove doesn't keep his wallet with him when he's at home. He puts it away. Or are you gonna steal your son's money? I mean, it's not stealing if you win it at cards. Are you gonna hustle your son's money? That would be a better question. Cove quickly returned to the living room, a black wallet in his hand. He took a place at the front of the table with the rest of you. You blinked as Cove unzipped his wallet. You used real money on card games with family? That's not a weird... we used to do that when I was little. We used to bet our allowance and then we'd be sad when my mom won. While you sat there, your hands idle in your lap, the three shot looks at one another and sized each other up. That's right. $5 per round, per person. Winner takes it all. Go big or go home, brah. Oh, are you planning on kicking French fires to the curb? Or do you intend on donating to the guest of honor's pot, Mr. High Roller? Mr. Holden narrowed his eyes and leaned back against the side of the couch, completely at ease. French Fries wants to play it. I'll fund her way in. Don't worry about that, brah. Yeah, give me that 20! He rested an arm across the top of a knee that he propped up. Cove's dad was acting slick in a way you'd never seen before. You appreciated his offer. You joked that he shouldn't be so confident. Felt awkward. His surety in this was pretty appealing. You ignored it. I'm gonna be like, yeah, probably maybe don't bet on me, because I'm terrible at cards. I have no poker face. Are you sure? Adding me could be spelling your doom. Right you are, French Fires. I hope you can back that attitude up. You know I can, brah. French Fires is my friend. If she's playing, I can give her money for the round. Mr. Holden wasn't intimidated by Cove's scowl. He only grinned, chuckling. Alright, brah. I concede to your might of personality. Cove still looked a little sour, but he didn't protest more after getting his way. Well, you've got your ticket. Interested in throwing in? You glanced around. This seemed like serious business. In response to your consternation, Kira softened her competitive smile. Don't worry too much. We'll probably just do some rounds of Go Fish tonight. No biggie. What do you think, brah? Yeah, I'm gonna play. Mr. Holden gave you a big thumbs up while Cove nodded firmly back. You were really good at Go Fish. You were decent, but not the best at Go Fish. Ah, you left it all to luck. You were always bad at Go Fish. I feel like Go Fish is a game of luck, as is any card game. So we're gonna leave it to Lady Luck, and she better be a lady tonight. Fantastic. We'll play for however long everyone wants to keep going, or until people start running out of cash, but are still refusing to quit when they're behind. Speaking for herself, I see, brah. With a laugh, Kira nudged you using an elbow, then motioned towards the other two with her chin. Don't be fooled by their soft faces. These boys are sharks. In reaction to her words, Mr. Holden smirked, and Cove's eyebrows became more angled. Kira's phrasing made you think back to when you were young, specifically on Mr. Holden's favorite shark pants that he used to wear all the time. Perhaps they had been a fit for him in ways that you didn't know of. You could feel tension in the air. Cove and his parents glued their eyes to one another, then all placed $5 bills in the empty space in front of them. Cove dropped an extra one for you, giving a tiny smile after he did. Once this was done, Kira began dealing out cards to everybody. It was time to begin. First rounds came and went quickly, the group getting into the groove of things. You won right away. meant you had money to keep playing the second round. You're a natural. Nicely done, brah. Better keep those wits about you for the next round, though. As the night went on, so did the games. Mr. Holden would jokingly shake his fist when someone other than him got a pair. Kira acted as a news anchor, reporting on everyone made by speaking in her curled fist. Cove was still a few words, but now it was because he was focused on the game instead of being overcome with awkwardness. Most of the time, you even spotted a smile on his lips. You won quite a few games, to your delight. You had a hefty money pile on your side of the table. You must regret paying French Fire's way in now, huh? No way. French Fires might be beating me, but she's also beating. Cove turned towards you and smiled, looking pleased at your ability to match his mom and dad. You grinned at him, touched by his speedy comeback. It became clear that where the money went in the moment didn't really matter. They ended up giving it back to one another in other ways, and not just through more rounds of cards. You sat back, looking over the scene. A tiny smile grew on your face. Cove's family was pretty cool, you thought. You were glad you got this chance to come over and spend time with the three of them.